on selling on marketplaces, how marketplaces have changed the face of retail and how to leverage this opportunity. So we have Mr. Mohamad Dennawi, who is the head of e-commerce at Marketplace Operations. So he has a background in direct sales, business and brand development, mostly in luxury retail. Can we have you on stage, sir? Then we have Ibrahim Farah, who is the project manager with Xpertin. Hi. And then we have Oliver White, who is the head of e-commerce at Sephora Middle East. Unfortunately, our first panelist, Ulugbek, who couldn't make it. So the format which we will follow is, first we will have a round of introduction from each one of you so that the audience knows your background, and then we will do some generic questions, and then we will open it up for the audience. So we'll start with you with your introduction.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Oliver White. So as I was introduced, I'm currently e-commerce director for Sephora out here in the Middle East. I've been in the region for about 3 years now. I've been with Sephora for the last 12 months. Prior to that, I worked at Al Shaya, where I worked across a number of different brands in their e-commerce division. And then before that, I'm originally from the UK, as you can probably tell by my accent, where I worked for private equity groups who invested in retailers in the UK primarily.
Hi, my name is Ibrahim. Currently, I'm leading a new startup, which is an online marketplace for freelancers. But for the previous 8 years, I've pretty much been a solopreneur in e-commerce. I've built and managed my own very small e-commerce businesses.
Hello, my name is Mohamad. I'm actually from Lebanon. I've been in the region for around 10 years, working between brick and mortar and online business. I'm currently a marketplace manager for an omnichannel retailer based in Dubai. I worked for Souk, for Jolly Chic, for Shaloub and Al Yasra Fashion.
Thank you, gentlemen. So first I want to hear your views as we open it up on how do you think marketplace has evolved over the years, and why it is so important for retailers as an industry. So any one of you can just...
Well, I think it's a difficult question to answer because I think it's a different answer depending on the region or the part of the world we're talking about. I think if you look towards Europe and the UK, marketplace evolved in direct competition to the existing retail business and also the well-established by that time direct-to-consumer online business that those retailers have developed themselves, as David touched upon. If you look towards, say, China, for example, China, I think, is quite a unique situation. China, I think, added 200 million people to their middle classes over the course of about 10 years earlier this century, and there wasn't a well-developed retail ecosystem to support that added spending power. So e-commerce, and in particular marketplaces, jumped in to fill that void. Again, if you look towards India, a different situation again, where the rise of technology and the accessibility of the internet presented an opportunity for e-commerce and in particular, again, marketplaces to come in and pick up that added demand. So I think depending on the part of the world we're talking about, it's quite a different answer.
Okay.
I think in the last 2 decades at least, marketplaces has evolved around serving the consumers in better ways. Also, marketplaces, what they're supposed to do, what they should be proficient in, is developing new technologies to empower sellers to sell their products and effectively taking away the burden of developing their own. Taking away from sellers the burden of developing their own technologies, which is a time-consuming and very costly process. Making these technologies available to everyone alike. effectively democratizing these technologies. And this is, I guess, how they evolved.
Currently speaking, the region, the GCC, the business of retail is passing through a rough stage with the drop of offline sales across the shops, across the shopping malls, marketplaces. Has evolved in a very big way, especially like after the big acquisitions that happened in the region. Mainly we're talking about Souk, after the competition that happened also with the introduction of new big players, the cross-border business that's happening mainly from China to this region, and the awareness that the consumers are getting from buying online with half of the amount they are spending instead of going to traditional shopping malls. The business of online is going to grow in a huge way, I guess.
So my second question to the panel is, do you think online is actually killing retail, the traditional stores? Again, your personal views. So what are your views on that? So anyone of you can respond.
In this part of the world, not at all. I think, again, it's a different answer depending on where we're sat in the world. In the UK and Europe, yes. In the US, undoubtedly. But in the Middle East, I think e-commerce is still at a very nascent stage. The evolution and development of e-commerce within this part of the world, I think, is currently not necessarily being driven by the consumer as it has been in other parts of the world. I think the recent growth of e-commerce in the Middle East is as much driven by the belief and optimism that retailers have in the opportunity that e-commerce presents as it is by consumer demand.
Yeah, I guess this is an interesting question, and it has been debated for a long time, and actually many people are blaming e-commerce for the fall of retail and the bankruptcy of giant retailers. E-commerce is actually a new, it offers a new set of tools that retailers can leverage for their own businesses. Well, to answer your question of whether e-commerce is killing retailers, think of a retailer today doing business as if it were the 1980s, not accepting credit card payments, debit cards, or any other type of e-payments. Given that its competitors are accepting these types of payments, do you think this retailer would stand a chance against that competition? I don't think so. In case that retailer dies, is it reasonable to say that e-payments killed that retailer? Certainly not. This retailer would die simply just because of refusing to embrace this new technology. Any new technology that will enable him or her to actually do commerce in new ways and leverage multiple channels.
Currently, for sure, we have to agree that there's a big cannibalization happening in the region for the e-commerce, for the online sales, but not across all categories. For example, if we look at the electronics categories, which is one of the biggest categories growing on the online business in the region here, definitely the offline businesses are cannibalized. If we look at the sports category and beauty category also, the demand coming on the beauty category and the sports category, definitely it's cannibalizing. But we cannot say cannibalizing to a certain level of killing the offline business. But definitely the numbers will keep growing and growing, and the retailers will suffer.
Now, for a retailer,
they will suffer in case they don't embrace that an omni-channel, let's say, way of doing business, I guess.
I agree what you are saying, but from the grey market, what's happening and the evolution of marketplaces and the small sellers and the SMEs that's playing with the market, especially with the business that's happening on Souk and Noon. I say it because I come from fashion background and beauty background. You can see mainly most of the brands that's available, for example, in Sephora, you can find it at a half price available on Souk and Noon. So the client walks inside the shop, he checks physically the item, then he can go order it online, which is more convenient to him in terms of payment, in terms of delivery, and on cheaper rate also.
What is Sephora doing about this?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer because I'm not supposed to be wearing my Sephora hat. But I think it poses an interesting question because I think there's probably a point as to what will the governments and departments within the region do to protect the online retailers, because the retail market within this part of the world is built on physical retail. If you look at Dubai, you've got Dubai Mall. We're opening Meydan, which is a couple of miles away, and then there's already talk about Dubai Creek, Dubai Square, 3 of the biggest retail spaces in the world, all within a 2-mile, 3-mile radius of one another. So I think there will come a point in time in the future, not yet, where a question will be raised around regulation. You've got a retail market where retailers and brands have to apply for licenses if they want to go into periods of promotion, and that's quite an expensive and arduous process to go through. At the same time, you've got an e-commerce market, an online market, which is driven by discount and driven by price. So can the two coexist in the current form? I would question that. So at some stage in the future, there will have to be a movement to protect the retail industry in which the market is built upon.
Okay. See, as a retailer, you have 2 options. Either you can go via marketplace or you can go on your own. What are the typical considerations you make whether you should go the marketplace route or you should have your own channel? If you are I know there are different answers if you're an established brand vis-a-vis smaller brand. So I just wanted the panel to actually have their views on what you think about it.
So I think it depends on what your objective is. It depends on what you want to achieve from it. I mean, David touched upon some of these points earlier on. If you're considering going down the marketplace route, you've got to ask yourself why. Are you going onto marketplaces to defend your brand? Are you going on to marketplaces to create added awareness that you will not achieve on your own? Are you going onto marketplaces to liquidate stock? So I think before you consider whether you go down the marketplace route or the direct-to-consumer route or a combination of the two, you've really got to ask yourself what it is you're hoping to achieve. If you're hoping to increase your customer database, then really you have to go direct-to-consumer. If you're hoping to reach a wider audience and complement a physical retail business, then direct-to-consumer is probably the route to go. If you simply want to sell more units of stock, if you want to liquidate stock, if you want to reach other parts of the region from a fixed physical location, then marketplace offers a good opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with what Oliver said. I cannot speak from a big brand point of view, but however, I guess every medium will present different advantages and disadvantages maybe, and it's up to you to strategically choose where to go and for what purposes, what objectives you want to achieve.
Mainly speaking in the retail industry, most of the big retailers currently in the region, they have big MOQs when it comes to buyings and to projections for their shops. And not meeting these MOQs with the brands at the end of the year will make a big confusion and sometimes will lead to might lose the brand in the business here. So that's why we can see a lot of shops closing and opening, closing and opening in most of the malls. So mainly most of the brands are going towards marketplaces to first of all clear and liquidate their aging inventory, which they are not able to clear in their shops, in the shopping malls. And second, to protect the brand online and to increase the awareness and gain more market share. Like especially like for example, talking from a brand perspective, most of the brands, they are currently the brand principal themselves, they are currently selling on wholesale. They sell directly to retail and then sell their wholesale. And the stock of wholesale, if you track it, you can find it available on marketplaces. So the retailer will sell at full price and the marketplace will sell it at half price. So most of the brands currently in the region here, they are going towards marketplaces to increase their market shares and to liquidate mainly their aging inventories. Thank you.
Okay, with this I will open it up for the audience. So if you have any questions for the panel. Yeah, I think there's a...
Well, this one's for Oliver, since he's coming from directly from a very, very well-known and recognized brand, a brand which has been very active in the online e-commerce space, be it D2C, I'm not exactly too sure about, the marketplace penetration that Sephora might have. So you mentioned that there might be a few challenges in the coexistence of traditional brick and mortar retail and marketplaces with the entire regulatory framework, which obviously needs to get up to speed, to say the least. What, as part of, I mean, being the director of e-commerce at Sephora, so what are your, if you can, I mean, we don't need to know your secrets that you have up your sleeve, but what is the broader strategy that you have to mitigate the demo center phenomenon that Mohamad spoke of, that people come across to the store, they try the product, and they go home and order it online for a better price?
Good question. So this is a bit of a cliche answer, so forgive me, but at Sephora, the focus is on omnichannel. So we want to leverage the best of the physical retail experience and enhance that with the best that digital has to offer. So in terms of competing against marketplace sites where, yes, it is true, some Sephora products, not all, some are available on marketplace sites within the region, some are a little bit cheaper, not all, then we need to ensure that we offer the consumer the best experience. Because ultimately, if you go back to the very basic reasons around why people buy online, and David touched upon these, it's choice, there's more to choose from, it's price, I get it cheaper, it's convenience, I don't have to park, I don't have to walk, I don't have to queue, or it's experience. So at Sephora, the strategy is very much ensuring that we offer the consumer the best of at least 3 of those 4 boxes. So we need to make sure that we have a really strong regional and domestic fulfillment operation so we can get to the consumer before anyone else. And in Dubai, Sephora will get to in 2 hours. We need to make sure that we have the strongest assortment, and a big part of the Sephora strategy is exclusivity, so there are a large number of brands within the Sephora assortment that you will not be able to get in other retailers or on marketplaces. And we need to make sure the experience is best in class. So our focus as a retailer now is ensuring that everything that touches a customer is best in class, whether that's contacting the customer service centre, whether that's the parcel that arrives on your doorstep when you've ordered. So I think that's our duty, if you like, as a retailer that has a physical presence and a digital presence within the region, is we've got to make sure that the customer wants to shop with us. For the same reasons they want to shop in our stores, our stores are the best, we've got to make sure that our digital experience mirrors that.
I think he has a question. Can we have the mic here, please?
Thank you. My question is to 3 of you. What's your experience running hybrid models in the region? I mean, online, offline, both. Because I'm from India, and back in India, most hybrid models haven't been able to do so well.
To be honest, myself, I was mainly selling online. I've never sold offline. But I think that the experience that offline or I mean brick and mortar locations offer to customers is unique, and it cannot be replicated online. And that's one thing that you need to think of when you think about digital transformation. If you are a brick and mortar store and you want to add a digital dimension to your market or to your business, so e-commerce or any online or digital tools are there to support your business, and that's how you need to think of it.
I'll give an example of a brand that's done it really well that I can take no credibility for because I've never worked with them. But if you look at what Nike are now doing in the US, Nike are simply looking to combine the best of the physical retail experience, the best of the digital retail experience, and they're looking to use the strengths from both to create a conjoined experience. So I think Nike have recently opened a store in LA called the Melrose store, where they have chosen the location of the store based on the online audience within the region. So they have noticed a high penetration of online orders going to that particular part of LA, decided to open a store there, How they merchandise that store is all based around what consumers within that region look at and buy on the website. So it's a constantly evolving, changing stock. It's not a fixed stock for a season. They constantly reinvent the stock within that store based on what people within a certain radius of the store are looking at online. The whole store is based around digital engagement. So the Nike Plus app, you can only access certain parts of the store if you're a Nike Plus app customer. They've got murals in and outside the store that are all very Instagrammable to encourage people to go to the store, take a picture, post it on social media, and it increases the awareness and visibility of the store. They've got kind of, I guess, a la Apple, they've got a sneaker bar in the middle of the store, and again, you can pre-book appointments on the app. You can shop online, and they've got lockers outside the store where you can go and unlock the lockers with your Nike Plus app and pick up what you order online without ever engaging with anyone in the store if that's the way you prefer to shop. So I think, and this is again, it's been said many times over the last few years, the retailers that are going to be most successful are the retailers that get the best balance between online and offline. It's not about throwing up digital screens in your store to say that you've got digital in store. It's about understanding what the customer actually wants and giving them the best experience, whether that's through a digital experience or through a physical retail experience.
The same also, I will comment regarding Level Shoe District, the shop in Dubai Mall that sell mainly like most of the designers' shoes. They have done a very nice transformation project in terms of omni-channel where they have managed to take over all their brands on their own platform where you can go shop online by seasonality, by item, by brand. It's like a consolidated platform for most of the luxury, mid and low brands. You can shop and they can deliver to your house. It's a very good model also.
And just as a final point, let's not forget, we've talked a lot about Amazon today. Amazon are an online retailer who are opening at quite an aggressive pace now physical stores around the world. So if an online retailer can evolve to be an offline retailer, certainly offline retailers can evolve the other direction.
The reason for my question was that the general perception is that pure online is marginally or significantly cheaper than a brick and mortar store because the overheads are much higher in the old-fashioned retail. And most online retailers, when they start off with special deals and special offers, which become difficult to manage once you want to run a hybrid model. And I've seen so many cases where a Pepper Fry Sandeep would know, Godrej Nature's Basket, where established businesses have wanted to take that risk, go both ways, and suddenly you realize that you can't offer the same price at the retail store what you're offering online. And so any exposure on that side?
Well, I suppose, forgive me, but I challenge the point that overheads for an online store are less than a physical retail store. Sure, if you're going to open a store in the middle of Dubai Mall, substantial overheads, but I think quite often when we look at online businesses, we look at a slightly flattering P&L. Most pure play businesses who are selling consumer goods do not make a profit in the first 18 months, first 2 years of operation. I mean, Amazon didn't make a profit on their B2C business they only now make a profit in North America and Canada. I think in all other markets, Amazon's B2C retail goods business is loss-making. I think when you consider in the returns tax, which was touched upon earlier, when you consider in the cost of fulfillment, when you consider in the cost of holding inventory, when you consider in the cost of a scalable digital infrastructure, I think that there's as much capital investment that goes into an online business as there is in a physical retail business. I think online businesses and pure play businesses do a much better job of presenting that in a much more attractive way to investors on balance sheets and P&Ls. So again, whether you're physical or digital, you've got to really touch upon what the consumer wants and leverage your infrastructure, whether it's digital or physical, to give that consumer what they want.
From another perspective also. That's why like most of the brands, if you can see like mainly big brands, they tend to go run marketplaces on big platforms like on Souk and Noon. Currently, what's happening? You can check a brand store where margins generally on general merchandise are between 10 to 12%. If you go to fashion destination websites such as Namshi or other platforms, like it's around 30-35%. Beauty platforms. So again, overhead, human power is less, overhead is less, and operational expenses are way much less. You don't need to worry about cross borders, deliveries, items which are going overseas, and you just need to fulfill the order, plan your inventory properly, plan your promotions properly as per your marketing calendar, and just sell.
I just want to comment on one point. When you go digital, one thing that you can leverage, one thing that you cannot easily get when you are purely in store is the huge amount of data that you can gather online about your customers. Everything that you can measure about their behavior, what products they like, their journey, etc. And combining this data and trying to learn from it and take these learnings and applying them to your brick and mortar locations can enhance your physical performance as well.
Regarding what Ibrahim said, I do not agree 100% on what he's saying in terms of buying pattern, consumer behavior, average spending power. Mainly after analyzing data coming from retail shops, which is brick and mortar and online business, the average spending power is completely different. Buying pattern is different. Average checkout basket is different. Where the consumer spend money, like between special price brackets, which is mainly entry price brackets, mainly speaking about 50 to 99 dirhams or 99 to 199 dirhams, it's completely different from brick and mortar. That's why like gathering the data and comparing it to brick and mortar shop would be challenging.
Yeah, maybe. Again, I personally have never run any brick and mortar place. However, I guess you agree that the data that you gather online is richer maybe than what you can gather offline in many aspects.
Thank you. One last bit that I have. With the retail real estate costs becoming criminally expensive, where do you see the balance shifting? Will it be a 50-50 online, offline, or you see a skew towards online, a bigger chunk?
I think in this market, much as obviously I support the ambition around growing e-commerce channels, obviously that's what supports my salary. I think retail is going to play a much bigger part and command a much bigger mix of the overall retail market than online. So I think whereas you've seen in other markets, e-commerce command 20, 25, 30% market share, I think we're a long way off that in the Middle East. We wouldn't be opening malls every couple of months if that weren't true.
As a corollary, if you look at it, because the traffic situation here, because if in weekends it's Dubai Mall, it's very difficult to enter. So do you think that's still a lot of opportunity for online?
Yeah, I think there's definitely opportunity. Do I think that opportunity is going to come at the cost of retail? I'm not so sure. I guess if you look towards KSA, there's more obvious opportunity in Saudi because geographically it's obviously a much bigger space, population, a much bigger population. I think the real opportunity for e-commerce within this region is to consolidate the wider region. So we often find ourselves talking about UAE and KSA, but when we start talking about the opportunities in Egypt, in Western and Northern Africa, in Morocco, and some of these markets which don't often sit on retailers' priority lists, that's where I think e-commerce has a huge opportunity, opens up the region.
And cross-border commerce is a big challenge.
Well, I said that was the last one. I've got another last
That's
one.
fine, go ahead.
A big chunk of the Middle East retail, the bigger word retail, comes from tourism retail. Right? And how do you think online retailers can encash that?
Really good question. I don't think they will. You don't go to Dubai to shop online. You go to Dubai for the retail experience. So I think that aspect of the retail market will always be somewhat protected. I think if I put my retailer hat back on, are we targeting the tourist market from an online perspective? Absolutely not. I think that would be a very difficult thing to do. So that aspect of the market, I think, will always be protected for retail.
Again, just Dubai, it's a touristic country. Forget about Dubai. Sorry, Dubai, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain combined together, they only contribute up to 30% from the total online sales. And Saudi, it's contribute up to around 70%. But spending power in Kuwait is very high. People in Kuwait still they shop into malls and go spend a lot into the malls in addition to the online business. Qatar, their spending power is very high also. Like most of the Qataris are very rich and they tend to spend a lot on luxury brands. And Saudi still, the market of Saudi is still not an immature market in terms of online business. And Saudi is not a touristic place. So mainly you can exclude only Dubai from this formula if you want to call it.
Thank you.